What would you do if your water was suddenly cut off tomorrow? Well, you know, there's been recent warnings from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, about terrorist attacks on our water plants and our wastewater facilities. So it's more important than ever before to be prepared. So stay tuned to learn how water preps could save you and your family's life. Hi, I'm Prepper Potpourri, and by the end of this video, I want to show you how to draft a plan to identify water sources in your home and outside your home, how to store water, the various methods of purifying water, how to plan for the amount of water your family might need, and the importance of checking your preps. I'm here to help you every step of the way. So like I said, last week the EPA issued a warning to all the water treatment plants out there. They want them to take immediate action to keep our drinking water safe because of all the terrorist attacks on our nation's water supply. You know, just last year, Iranian-based hackers accessed multiple utilities that were using Israeli-made equipment. In January of this year, a Russian hacktivist group caused a small Texas town's water system to overflow. And just in April, a Russian group targeted a wastewater treatment plant in Indiana. And then there's that Chinese hacking group called Volt Typhoon. They've compromised the information technology of multiple critical infrastructure systems, including drinking water in the United States. And sadly, the EPA outlined that often it was weak passwords that made it so easy for hackers to gain access to our water systems. In fact, about 70% of those investigated failed to have the fail-safes needed to prevent such breaches. But you know, it's not just terrorists that we have to worry about, it's natural disasters also. You know, like floods, droughts, wildfires. Hey, remember Las Vegas, New Mexico that was affected by the drought and we're worried about their water running out? And then of course, hurricanes. Hurricane Katrina and Rita occurred about the end of August, and recovery efforts were for over 1,000 affected drinking water systems had to continue through October, and by November, safe drinking water was returned to 5 million people. However, 26 drinking water systems were still under a boil water advisory, and 59 were inoperable, so it was still affecting 100,000 people. And winter storms and earthquakes can disrupt our water systems also. But it could be power outages or infrastructure problems, like what happened here in Edenville, Michigan, that caused the dam to break. And that can cause problems with water availability and quality. So I want to stress the importance of water prepping. You know, we can only live 3 days without it. That's right. Only 3 days without water. And water is important too for hygiene and cooking and sanitation. So in light of recent events, I believe it's really crucial to have a well-drafted plan to ensure that your family has the safe drinking water they need. So let's get ready and draft that water prep plan. Number one, you gotta assess your needs. How much water do you want to store? FEMA recommends having at least 2 weeks worth of water stored. And that's per person. And they say you should figure about 1 gallon of water per person per day. So you can do the math. How many people are in your household? And how many days do you want to store water? Don't forget your pets too. Okay, you've assessed your needs. Now it's time to go on to step number 2. You want to list and map all sources of water in your home and outside of your home. It is really important to have multiple sources of water in case something happens. Redundancy is important in any emergency plan. Now, in an emergency, you have some sources of water right in your own home. Your water heater, it often contains 30 to 80 gallons of water. All you have to do is turn off the power to it, let it cool, and then use the valve at the bottom and drain the water. It is safe for drinking. And you can use water in your toilet tank. Now notice, I'm not saying toilet bowl. I'm saying toilet tank. You want to make sure you're not using any cleaners or those little deodorized tabs in there. If not, that water is safe to drink. And you might have swimming pool or a whirlpool tub, and that is great for use for hygiene and sanitation. I wouldn't use it for drinking water. And if you're like me and you have a barrel to collect rainwater, you can also use rainwater collection method at your home. Now go outside, walk around your property and nearby, and determine what other sources of water can you find. And if you're lucky like me to live on a creek, then I have a water source right here. But of course, it has to be filtered and treated before drinking. Our neighbor has a pond, and maybe about a half a mile away is a river. So know where there's other water sources, and you might want to actually put them on a map. It's really a great idea. So you assessed your needs, you mapped out your water sources, and now it's time to decide on your short-term and your long-term water preps. Your short-term is going to be things like your bottled water or container water. I do recommend labeling when you bought the water so you know. They say that bottled water is good for 1 to 2 years. Now, if you're bottling up your own water, then you may want to sanitize the bottle first with a little diluted bleach solution. Rinse it really well before you put in your water to store it. And there are many other containers for water, everything from what they call the water bricks to actually 55 gallons for water, and even huge cisterns made especially for water storage. And please consider rainwater harvesting. You only have the initial expense of buying the tub, something to collect the rainwater. And of course, you need a sloping roof and gutters to direct the water. But it's a very inexpensive solution. It's surprising how much water you can get from just a ½ inch of rainfall. If that ½ inch of rain was falling on a 1,000 square foot roof, it would yield 300 gallons of water. Pretty neat, huh? Now, if you're like us and you're on a well, you're not part of the municipal water system, and you lose power, well, we aren't able to get water in the house out of our tap. So you might want some backup plans. I know there are some manual pumps that you can install in your well. There are ones that use solar, and you could have a portable generator for that purpose. In our case, we have a system installed in our basement that we can actually pump the water out of from our well even when we lose power. So that is really great. Plus now we have a whole house generator to make sure that well still gets power, so we won't even have to use that pump. But think about what alternative sources you have for powering your well so you can still get water. Let's talk about some considerations for water storage. Do you know how much this gallon of water, full, if it was full, would weigh? 8.34 pounds. So water is relatively heavy. So if you were storing water for, let's say, a household of 4 for only 2 weeks and figuring a gallon per person, that water would weigh over 467 pounds. So make sure where you store your water that the shelves are sturdy. Also, what happens if you get a leak in one of them? You know, you can buy a little alarm. It's battery operated, that if there is water, let's say on the floor, it goes off And that could be great if one of your water storage containers all of a sudden sprung a leak. Now, you have to be careful what containers you're using. You want to use only food safe containers. And make sure you're inspecting regularly. Like I said, a leak could cause big problems. And again, label those containers with the date you're storing them. And I think it's best to rotate your stored water regularly. Before I outline all the water purification methods, I want to urge you, subscribe, click that notification button so you don't miss a single video. You know, I emphasize practical prepping, not that doom and gloom. So number 4, these are the different purification methods you can use if you don't have potable water. Method number 1, boil. I mean, how often does it come out? The city says a boil advisory, right? You boil your water for 1 minute, unless you're at higher altitudes, and then it's for 3 minutes. You let it cool, and then it might taste a little funny, so you can kind of pour it back and forth. When you get a little air, it tastes better, or add a pinch of salt. There's a lot of pros for boiling water for purification because it's relatively easy and most of us have the tools needed. The cons would be you have to have an energy source, a backup stove or something to be able to heat that water. And it doesn't remove chemicals. Method number 2, using household bleach such as Clorox. You want to make sure you're using regular unscented bleach, and it usually has a 5.25 to a 8.25 sodium hypochlorite concentration. Now, here is the information that the EPA recommends, how much of bleach to add to your water to purify it. When you do that, the water should have a slight chlorine smell. If it doesn't, do it again. And again, you might have a little aftertaste. But you know what? I find out during the summer, our city water has that same aftertaste. So the pros are, we often have this for our laundry and other sources. So again, easily available. The cons are though, this only lasts for about 6 months and then it starts to lose strength. And like I said, it can give you that aftertaste. And again, it also doesn't remove chemical contaminants. So method 3 is using common iodine. I don't have that in my medicine cabinet, but maybe you do. You just add 5 drops of 2% tincture of iodine to each quart or liter of water you're disinfecting. And if the water is still cloudy or colored, you want to add 10 drops more. Stir and let it stand for 30 minutes before you use. So the pro is it's easy to use. Some of you might have it in your medicine cabinet or your first aid kit. And it kills bacteria, viruses, and protozoa. Cons, not safe for pregnant women, and does have a, I think, funny aftertaste. So number 4, using granular calcium hypochlorite, or as a lot of people know, pool shock. I know this is very popular on prepping channels. You use it to make a chlorine solution and then use that solution to purify your water. I have never done it. I do have some in the basement that all of a sudden kind of like exploded into granules all over my floor, because you have to be careful. This stuff can be dangerous. So it's not a method I use, but if you're interested in that, I have the link below, an excellent video by the Provident Prepper on this. And the pros are, it has a long shelf life, relatively cost effective, and it's effective against bacteria and viruses. But there are cons to this method. It is a bit dangerous. You have to be careful using it. When you're mixing it, you want to wear safety glasses. It is not effective against some parasites. And to me, it tastes funny. There's something that I don't have. The most popular model is a SteriPen, and it uses UV light to sterilize. And it's really quick. It takes only about 90 seconds. So that's the pro. It's quick. There's no chemical taste, and it destroys the DNA of bacteria, viruses, and parasites and just renders them harmless. Are there cons? Well, it requires either electricity or batteries, and it doesn't remove particulates or chemicals. Another method that's really popular in countries that are hot like Africa and have problems is the SODIS method. And in that, you reuse, after you clean it of course, a pop bottle. It has to be clear. It can't be light green or something light blue like some of the bottles. It has to be a clear bottle. And all you're going to do with this, fill it up with the water, cap it, and then you're going to lay it outside. And then it only needs 6 hours of direct sunlight, and you have safe drinking water. Cloudiness will affect the strength of the solar radiation and thus the effectiveness of the method. The rule of thumb is if you have less than half of your sky clouded over, 6 hours is enough. If more than half the sky is covered with clouds, the bottle must be placed in the sun for 2 consecutive days. And it's best to place on a reflective metal surface, but that isn't necessary. You can place it right on the ground. But there are other methods you can use involving filtration. You know, they use a ceramic and or a carbon activated filter. And they can be very portable, like this Life Straw, to the very popular kitchen counter Berkey water filter system. And the pros are they remove particulates. Many models also work against bacteria and parasites, and some may remove some chemicals. But the cons are those filters can clog. How do you know that you didn't get an inferior filter? And you have to be sure that you have additional filters in your preps. But you know, I'm talking about all these different methods. And for most cases, boiling that water for that 1 minute or 3 minutes if you're at a higher elevation is all you need to do to have safe drinking water. Now, with some of these systems, you're getting water from a source that needs to be filtered. Let's say my creek. Well, here is how I do it. I filter it and then add my bleach to have potable water. Okay, we're almost done. Planning number 5. Practice, practice, practice. You might want to have a little drills with your family, quizzing them. How can you get safe drinking water? Where can you get it from the home? How long do you have to boil? Where are there sources near our house? Those type of things. So everybody in the family is ready in case something would happen, especially if you're not there. Number 6, like any plan at the end, is review and update as needed. Things can change. There may be new technology. There may be more members in your household or less members. Always update your plans regularly. So give yourself a big pat on the back. Yay! You've got your plan. Now, I encourage you to start implementing these plan elements today. Don't procrastinate. Ensuring that your family has a safe source, or what I recommend, sources of drinking water, can give you great peace of mind. You know, don't wait until that emergency happens to all of a sudden run out to the store or whatever you need to do to prepare. I hope you found value from this video. If you did, please share it with your family and friends. The more people we can get prepared, the better. Just spread that word on how important it is to have water preparation in case of an emergency. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Comment down below. Have you found any other water containers that work great? Have you had any problems with your water storage? We all learn from each other. And remember, being proactive is so important. Don't procrastinate. Keep your family safe. And if you're interested in a more detailed video on how to harvest water from a creek, filter it, and then sanitize it, watch this video.